Some of the hardest relationships to let go of aren't the ones that never ended. They're the ones that never really became what you thought they were. And that can be true whether it's a relationship that lasted a few weeks or many years. There's a particular kind of loss that doesn't get talked about very much because from the outside it can look like everything is good or nothing has really happened. Sometimes it's someone you've never really officially dated, sometimes it's a connection that never quite stabilized, and sometimes it's a long-term commitment that went on for years but never truly landed. You may have shared time, history, even commitment, and yet somewhere inside you always felt alone, unmet, like the relationship existed more in hope than in lived intimacy. And if you've ever struggled to let go of someone you never really had, whether briefly or for a long stretch of time, there is nothing wrong with you. This kind of attachment isn't foolish, it isn't dramatic, and it isn't a sign that you've imagined something out of nothing. It's a very human response to intense romantic love that never had the conditions it needed to become a real mutual intimacy. What makes this kind of loss so destabilizing is that it's often invisible. You're not just missing a person. You're missing the future you were orienting towards, the version of yourself that felt more alive, more hopeful, and the relationship you kept trying to arrive at. In short-term connections, this can feel very confusing and consuming. In long-term relationship, it can be even more disorienting because you've invested years of trying to make something land that never quite did. In both cases, your system bonded or overcoupled to the potential rather than shared reality. And potential is extraordinarily difficult to grieve because it doesn't have a clear ending. It just dissolves. I'd like to offer you some clarity. Intense romantic love doesn't require longevity to be real. It requires activation. When someone captures your attention, mirrors something essential in you, or awakens aliveness and meaning, the brain responds with focus and motivation. And from a neuroscience perspective, this involves dopamine, systems that heighten your attention, energy, and significance. Psychologically, it creates a sense of this matters. None of this is imaginary. None of that means you were foolish or naive. What's important is this distinction. Intensity can activate quickly, but intimacy requires mutual presence over time. When intensity isn't met with emotional availability, responsiveness, and shared direction, the bond doesn't integrate. It stays suspended. So your system keeps reaching, not because you're stuck, because you never received a clear signal that the connection was complete. Letting go is so hard because you're not just releasing a person. You're releasing the meaning making your system assigned to the bond, the self you were becoming in relation to them, and the hope that this connection would eventually feel safe, mutual, and real. There's often a quiet belief beneath all of this. If I let this go, am I letting go of something rare? And what you're actually grieving isn't love itself. You're grieving love without a container. Love that had energy, resonance, and sincerity, but not structure required to become a shared life or even a shared emotional ground. And grief without a clear narrative, without social permission, can feel especially lonely. This experience isn't asking you to shut down your capacity for love, your desire for passion and partnership. It's not asking you to become less romantic, less sensitive, or less alive. It's asking you to differentiate between intensity and intimacy. Intensity tells us what we're capable of feeling. Intimacy tells us what can actually be lived, shared. The pain here doesn't mean you loved wrong. It means love didn't have the conditions it needed to stabilize. And that distinction matters because it preserves your dignity, your discernment, and your capacity for future connection. If you're in this space right now, you don't need to force closure. You don't need to convince yourself it wasn't real. It was real. It just didn't bring you into wholeness. Allow yourself to be gentle with yourself. Titrate. Take little baby steps towards the letting go. And then if you have to come back and feel a little bit more of the bond, let yourself go there. Surrender to where you're naturally and organically going. Don't try to force yourself to let go of something and completely cut yourself off, even if that simply means you're allowing yourself to think about the person. You don't need to reach out or have a physical contact with them to allow yourself to pendulum swing, a little bit this way or a little bit that way. Maybe you write a letter to them to connect to them, something that you don't send them. You have a conversation in meditation, you journal to them, and then you move forward and you go out with girlfriends or your friends, or you do something fun that kind of puts you in your body, puts you into that place of self-connection where you're doing things for yourself, that allows the mind to not completely wander in this uber, narrow focus. So allow yourself to have these experiences where they don't come to mind, you're doing other things and it's okay. And then if you have to go back a little bit, and then you go back this way. And when you are in those moments where you realize, oh, I haven't thought about them, or, I'm not putting them on a pedestal as the only person that was right for me in one way or another, and these are all the reasons why, just lean into when you're not in that place. Notice that you're even there. What does your body feel like when it's there? How is your heart feeling? Do you feel anxious? Do you feel calm? Just notice. And then when you are in these moments where you're kind of titrating back and forth and you're in this other direction, you can begin to, oh yes, I remember there's this calmness in the heart. My heart's beating slower. My breathing is not as shallow. My brain is not rushing around. I feel like when I'm sitting in a chair, I can actually feel my body sitting in the chair and I feel grounded. Things like that. Remembering, oh, right, when I made time to go to yoga or to the sauna, or when I made time to go on a walk, or I called a girlfriend or a guy friend that I haven't spoken to in a long time because I've been so consumed with this person and trying to make this relationship work, right? Oh, when I do those things, I feel so good. And to allow yourself to resource yourself, and then find those places also where you're allowing the resource to come in from others and from environments, perhaps like yoga, or going to your favorite cafe to sit and do work there on your computer and have your favorite cup of coffee, because it just feels so good. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm Kristen. Welcome to this channel. Please subscribe if you want to have more conversations like this with me. What have been your experiences going through these things? Are you going through it now? What have you done to help and resource yourself in these moments? Let me know in the comments below. Please give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed this and it's been supportive to you. And definitely subscribe and hit notification if you are digging my vibe. I also do live, so nervous system reset, chill space. Let's focus together and be in community, so that we can be off on our individual lives, right? And doing the things that we need to do, but also together. We just do journal prompts. I read some poetry and some books out loud. And sometimes I pull an oracle card. We talk about all kinds of things. And we're just basically there for each other. And so just come and be. Just be while you're doing your office work. I would love to have you. Mwah. See you there. Bye.